Right now, there is a 14-year-old sitting in a high school geometry class who is being actively punished for being manipulative.
Yeah, which happens entirely too often.
Right. They are like refusing to go on a field trip, or they're demanding their parent pick them up early, and the adults in the room are just rolling their eyes.
Just completely dismissing it.
Exactly. But what those adults don't realize is that this teenager's brain is experiencing the exact same physiological terror as a 2-year-old who has just been left alone in a crowded grocery store.
It's a massive cultural blind spot we have.
It really is. I mean, we look at a crying toddler at a daycare door and say, separation anxiety.
Right, it's cute, or at least expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when a teenager exhibits the exact same underlying panic, we label it a behavioral problem. So today, we are doing a deep dive into some really fascinating excerpts from the MentalSpace Guide to Understanding Childhood Separation Anxiety to figure out why this happens.
And it's such a crucial topic.
It is. We're going to uncover the clinical reality of this disorder, figure out why it goes undetected in older kids, and look at how modern school-based interventions are actually rewiring the treatment model. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, it's the perfect place to start because that contrast, the toddler versus the teen, that is the literal root of the problem.
How so?
We have culturally accepted separation anxiety as just like a developmental rite of passage.
Right, like teething.
Yeah, exactly. But clinically speaking, separation anxiety disorder isn't just a phase you automatically age out of by the time you hit kindergarten. It is a highly treatable, highly specific clinical condition.
And it sticks around.
It does. The reality hidden in the data is that it can, and frequently does, emerge in school-aged children and adolescents. We give toddlers a free pass, but we actively penalize older kids for exhibiting different manifestations of the exact same clinical distress.
So if you're listening right now, whether you're a parent trying to survive your child's morning meltdowns, a teacher looking at a student who is chronically absent, or just someone insanely fascinated by human psychology, understanding this distinction changes everything.
It forces a complete perspective shift.
It does. It forces you to look at everyday behavior through a completely different lens. So to understand why these older kids are suffering in plain sight, we have to define what separation anxiety disorder actually is on a neurological and clinical level.
Right, and the clinical definition actually draws a very hard line.
Okay.
It's defined as a developmentally inappropriate, excessive fear or anxiety concerning separation from attachment figures.
The key word there being inappropriate, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. The anchor word is inappropriate.
Yep.
I mean, we expect a 3-year-old to panic when mom leaves. We do not expect a 12-year-old to experience debilitating terror when mom just goes to the grocery store.
And how common is this, really?
It affects roughly 4% of all children.
Wait, really? 4%?
Yes. To put that in perspective, in an average school district, you have entire classrooms worth of kids dealing with this. It is literally one of the most common childhood anxiety disorders we have on record.
4% is massive. But looking at the symptoms in our source material, the way it presents is completely wild.
It's definitely not what people expect.
Right. It isn't just crying at a door. The symptoms include a persistent, consuming worry about losing a parent or a parent being harmed.
Yes, the catastrophic thinking.
Exactly. It's an intense fear of kidnapping, of getting lost, or getting into a fatal car accident. It presents as a severe reluctance to go to school, a terror of being home alone, or an absolute refusal to sleep anywhere away from the parents.
The sleepovers are a huge trigger.
Yeah, and they're having nightmares about separation. And maybe the most misunderstood part, the physical symptoms.
Oh, the somatic symptoms are crucial to understand.
Right, because these kids are getting genuine, debilitating headaches and stomach aches just when separation is anticipated. Not even happening yet, just anticipated.
Just the thought of it.
Yeah. So I want to dig into that. How do we draw the line between a developmentally normal bad week and a full-blown disorder? Like, if a kid has a stomachache on a Monday, how do we know if it's the metaphorical common cold or chronic pneumonia?
What's fascinating here is how the clinical guidelines delineate that boundary, because you really have to look at the mechanics of what's happening in the body.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics.
When a child anticipates separation and they have this disorder, their brain's amygdala basically fires off a life or death threat signal.
And a fire alarm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The body just floods with cortisol. Blood rushes away from the digestive tract and into the limbs to prepare for fight or flight.
Oh, wow. So that's why they get the stomachache.
Yes, it's not a fake ache to get out of school.
Yeah.
Their digestive system is literally shutting down from panic.
That sounds terrifying for a kid.
It is.
Yeah.
To your question about the boundary between a normal bad week and a disorder, well, a kindergartner having a few tears during week 1 of school, or an older child having a temporary clingy phase after a stressful move.
That's the common cold.
Right, that's the cold. The clinical threshold for a disorder is met when the intensity of the fear is wildly out of proportion to the actual threat. And, crucially, when it causes significant impairment.
By impairment, you mean it's actually breaking their day-to-day functionality.
Precisely. It has to actively disrupt their school attendance, their family life, or their social functioning.
Like losing friends because you never go to their house.
Exactly. They aren't just nervous about the sleepover, they refuse to go entirely, and they do lose friends over it. Furthermore, there is a very strict time criterion.
What's the timeline?
To be diagnosed as a disorder, these symptoms must persist for at least 4 weeks in children and for 6 months or more in adults.
Wow, okay. That 4-week marker is huge. It means the child missing a week of school because they're terrified their mom is going to get into a car accident isn't just going through a phase.
No, not it.
They're dealing with a medical condition. But if we have these clear markers, right, the stomach aches, the 4 weeks, the school refusal, why on earth does it go completely unnoticed in older kids?
Because of the adult blind spot we mentioned earlier.
Right. The sources point out this dangerous cycle of mislabeling that seems to just like pour gasoline on the fire.
It absolutely does. It comes down to a profound failure of observation on the part of adults. We have been conditioned to look for a toddler crying.
So we miss the teenage signs entirely.
Yes. So when a 9-year-old or a 14-year-old presents with these symptoms, it looks very different. A teenager doesn't necessarily cry and cling to your leg.
What do they do instead?
They might have a massive screaming meltdown in the morning over seemingly nothing. They might flat out refuse to attend a friend's sleepover, showing extreme anger if pushed.
So the panic looks like anger.
Exactly. Or they might have a full-blown panic attack because a parent is 10 minutes late picking them up from soccer practice.
And adults just don't connect those dots.
Rarely. Adults rarely connect those behaviors to separation anxiety. Instead, they routinely chalk it up to a personality flaw.
Which is so unfair.
It is. They label the child as simply being clingy, or far worse, they accuse them of manipulating the situation to get attention or get out of doing something they just don't want to do.
I have to completely reject that adult mindset. I mean, labeling a panicking teenager as manipulative feels incredibly lazy.
It's the easy way out for the adult.
Right. You are looking at a flashing warning sign and getting mad at the light bulb instead of checking the engine. It completely ignores the root cause of the behavior.
You're absolutely right to reject it because it is clinically backwards. The child is not executing a calculated plot to ruin the parent's morning.
They're just surviving.
Right. They're
Yeah.
drowning in an internal experience of terror. When adults label it as manipulation, we completely ignore the real underlying drivers.
And what are those drivers, according to the data?
The clinical data shows that separation anxiety disorder frequently co-occurs with other serious conditions that really demand attention. We're talking about generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, which is a chronic, pervasive state of worry about almost everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, along with social anxiety and clinical depression. This disorder is also a primary driver of chronic school refusal. We are looking at deep-seated psychological distress here.
And the sources point out some very specific triggers that can precipitate the onset of this disorder in older kids. Like it doesn't just spontaneously generate out of thin air.
Usually there is a catalyst.
Right. It is often triggered by a major life event or trauma exposure. We are talking about a recent loss or a death in the family, witnessing violence, a parental illness.
A difficult divorce is a common one.
Yeah, moving to a new city or even a massive global event. Their external world suddenly feels unpredictable and unsafe, so their brain desperately forces them to cling to the only safe harbor they know.
Which is their primary attachment figure.
Exactly.
That's the exact mechanism. The brain is just trying to survive what it perceives as an unsafe world.
Yeah.
And there is a vital distinction made in the guide that we must highlight here.
What's that?
The text explicitly states that while the child's separation anxiety can be exacerbated by parental anxiety, it is absolutely not the parent's fault.
Oh, wow. That feels like a huge sigh of relief for any parent listening right now.
It really should be. Parents carry immense guilt when their older child is struggling, especially if the parent struggles with anxiety themselves.
I can imagine. You'd think you caused it.
Exactly. A parent's own anxiety might create a feedback loop that accidentally intensifies the child's symptoms. Like, they might model fearful behavior without realizing it, But the parent did not cause the neurological and psychological mechanisms of the disorder itself.
Right. But because adults misunderstand these root causes and they don't realize they are dealing with a neurological threat response, their well-meaning reactions often make the problem much, much worse.
Yes, the reactions usually backfire.
Which brings us to the drop-off problem.
Ah, yes. The classroom door cling.
It is a scenario that plays out in thousands of schools every single morning.
Every single day.
The child is heavily distressed, crying, refusing to let go of the parent at the door of the classroom.
It's heartbreaking to watch.
Wait, hold on, though. Put yourself in that parent's shoes. If my kid is hyperventilating at the school door, my basic human instinct is to hug them, stay with them, and soothe them until they are calm.
Of course it is.
Right. It feels barbaric to do anything else. Are you telling me I'm actively making the disorder worse by comforting them?
It is deeply counterintuitive, but yes.
Seriously.
Seriously. The clinical consensus is that staying and comforting the child until they calm down actually reinforces the anxiety.
How? I don't understand. How does hugging my crying kid make them more anxious?
Think of it like hitting a save button on a corrupted computer file.
Okay, I'm listening.
When the child approaches the classroom, their brain sends a false alarm. It says, this place is a life or death threat. I need my parent to survive.
Right.
If the parent stays to soothe them, the child's brain goes, see, I was right. It is dangerous. That's why Mom is staying to protect me.
Oh, wow. So you're confirming the danger.
Exactly. Every time you stay, you are hitting save on that false alarm. You are unintentionally validating the threat.
So what are you supposed to do instead?
The clinically supported solution is actually brief, calm, predictable goodbyes, paired with structured reentry plans and clinical support. You have to teach the child's brain that the environment is safe and that they're entirely capable of surviving the separation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because breaking that cycle of reinforcement requires an actual playbook.
You definitely need a plan.
Right. If you're listening to this on your morning commute and thinking, oh no, I just spent 20 minutes comforting my kid at the door, did I break them?
You didn't break them.
Don't panic, you didn't. You can't just tell a parent to walk away quickly without giving them the tools to handle the emotional fallout. So the first line treatment outlined in the guide is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, combined with graduated exposure.
Yes, the gold standard.
How does that actually work in practice?
Graduated exposure is the antidote to the save button problem we just talked about. It means slowly, methodically exposing the child to the fear of separation in small, manageable doses.
Give me an example.
So maybe week 1, the parent just stands in the hallway outside the classroom for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Week 2, the parent waits in the car. Week 3, the parent drives away. It allows the child's nervous system to build tolerance.
So they learn they won't die.
Exactly. They experience the panic, but then they realize that their catastrophic fears, like their parent being kidnapped while they're apart, those fears do not actually come true.
It's essentially exposure therapy for separation.
Precisely. But the child cannot do this in a vacuum.
Right. The family has to be involved.
The treatment fundamentally relies on family integration. Parent coaching is an essential component.
Because the parents need to unlearn their instincts, too.
Yes. Therapists have to teach parents exactly how to respond to the anxiety, like how to execute those brief goodbyes without inadvertently reinforcing the avoidance behaviors.
Makes sense.
Family-based interventions add significant evidence for positive outcomes. And, the text notes, for moderate to severe cases, a clinician might determine that the use of SSRIs is necessary.
Let's define SSRIs quickly, because people hear medication and think of a magic happy pill or a sedative. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Right. They are not magic pills.
How do they actually help a kid who is afraid of a sleepover?
They don't magically cure the fear. What an SSRI does is help regulate the neurotransmitters in the brain to lower the child's baseline level of panic.
Okay, lowering the baseline.
Right. If a child's anxiety is at a 10 out of 10, their prefrontal cortex, which is the logical part of the brain, that's completely offline.
They can't even hear you.
Exactly. They cannot engage with cognitive behavioral therapy. An SSRI turns the volume of the anxiety down to maybe a 4 or a 5, which allows the child to actually absorb the therapy and practice the graduated exposure.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, the guide gives us very clear warning signs for when a family needs to seek this level of care.
Yes, the red flags.
Right. If those stressful drop-offs are producing significant distress that lasts more than 2 to 3 weeks, you need to pay attention.
Don't just wait it out.
Yeah. If the child is experiencing that cluster of physical symptoms, the headaches and stomach aches around separation, if they are having persistent nightmares, refusing sleepovers, or if they have intense difficulty even being in another room from their parent, those are the red flags.
The major red flags.
And we need to talk about the consequences of leaving this untreated because they are severe.
They are severe and they are lifelong. There is this myth that a child will just, grow out of it.
But they don't.
They don't. If left untreated, childhood separation anxiety disorder is a direct predictor of severe adult psychiatric outcomes.
Like what?
The clinical data shows much higher rates of adult panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, severe depression, and agoraphobia.
Let's clarify agoraphobia because most people think it just means being afraid to go outside.
It's much more complex than that. Agoraphobia is an intense fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult or where help wouldn't be available if things go wrong.
So it's not just the outdoors.
No, it's the anxiety mutating. The child's safe zone was the parent. For the adult, the safe zone might shrink to just their house or even just their bedroom.
That is awful.
It is. Early intervention is what breaks that trajectory. It teaches the brain how to self-regulate before the anxiety permanently limits their world.
Knowing that an unhealed 9-year-old turns into an adult battling agoraphobia is a massive wake-up call. But let's look at the harsh reality of the system here.
The system is definitely flawed.
It is, because knowing about CBT, graduated exposure, and parent coaching is entirely useless if families cannot access the care.
Accessibility is the huge hurdle.
Think about the logistics. Individual therapy appointments are incredibly expensive. The wait lists are routinely 6 months long, and parents are working during the exact hours that therapists are actually open.
Right, it's a structural nightmare.
So if we know walking away helps, and we know CBT helps, why are we seeing a massive spike in unhealed teens? What is broken in the delivery system?
The bottleneck is accessibility. The traditional outpatient clinic model simply does not fit the modern family's reality.
It just doesn't work.
Right. That is why the source material points to the school as the most logical point of intervention.
Okay, the school.
The school is where the functional impairment, the absenteeism, the meltdowns, that's where it manifests most visibly. And it is where the child is already spending the majority of their day.
So bring the care to them.
Exactly. The guide presents a really fascinating case study of how to bypass these bottlenecks by looking at a framework operating in Georgia, known as the MentalSpace School K-12 Support Program.
Now, I have to say, I am always incredibly skeptical of systemic fixes because logistics usually kill these great initiatives.
Oh, absolutely. Red tape is everywhere.
A beautiful idea on a whiteboard just disintegrates when it hits the reality of a public school. So how does an actual school implement a massive mental health framework without drowning in red tape, burning the already exhausted teachers, and bankrupting the families who actually need the therapy?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason the MentalSpace model works as a case study is because it explicitly engineers the system for zero friction.
Zero friction. How?
They looked at why the current system fails and built workarounds. For instance, you mentioned the 6-month wait lists.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
This framework utilizes same-day teletherapy intake.
Same day. What does that mean practically? Why is same-day intake so critical for separation anxiety?
Because of how quickly avoidance behaviors crystallize.
Ah, the save button again.
Yes. If a child refuses to go to school on Monday, and the earliest they can see a therapist is Friday, that is 5 days of the child's brain hitting that save button, reinforcing that staying home equals safety.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of it like that.
By Friday, the school refusal is cemented. Same-day intake interrupts that cycle immediately. It strikes while the iron is hot.
That's brilliant.
Furthermore, they don't dump this on the teachers. They assign dedicated therapist teams to coordinate directly with the existing school counselors.
Oh, so it's not extra work for the school staff.
No, it acts as a force multiplier for the school's existing infrastructure, rather than an added administrative burden.
And looking at their model, it is really comprehensive. Like, they aren't just doing 45 minutes of talk therapy and leaving.
Not at all.
The framework includes crisis intervention, suicide and violence prevention, and even staff wellness.
Which is so needed right now.
Yeah. They also build family counseling directly into the model, utilizing licensed, culturally competent, and diverse therapists, which is crucial for parent coaching.
But what about the red tape? I mean, schools are terrified of liability.
Naturally. And the operational facts reflect that. The program is fully HIPAA and FERPA compliant, meaning the student's medical and educational privacy is protected at the highest federal standards.
Wait. But it also addresses legislative pressures. For example, the sources note this model supports schools with the upcoming HB 268 compliance deadline hitting in July 2026.
Let me just clarify for those outside of Georgia or not familiar with education policy. HB 268 essentially requires schools to have robust safety and mental health protocols actively in place.
Yes,
It's basically a mandate to stop letting kids fall through the cracks.
correct. It forces the issue of accessibility. But to your earlier point about bankrupting families, the funding model is perhaps the most critical mechanism of the entire framework.
Right, because therapy is expensive.
They have removed the financial barrier to entry. For patients on Medicaid, there is a $0 copay.
$0. Wow.
Yes, and they are structured to accept all major commercial plans.
So like BCBS, Cigna, Aetna, UHC.
Yes, and Humana, Peach State,
Yeah.
CareSource, AmeriGroup, all of them. By removing the financial friction, the therapy can actually happen.
And when you actually remove the barriers to evidence-based care, the data is just staggering. I mean, the outcomes shared in the text from schools utilizing this specific model saw an 89% improvement in student attendance.
That is massive for a school district.
It is. They recorded a 92% reduction in anxiety symptoms among the students treated and achieved an 85% family satisfaction rate.
The numbers really speak for themselves.
Just think about that functionally. 89% of these kids are actually showing up to learn, sitting in class, and engaging with their peers because they aren't paralyzed by the fear of being away from their parents.
And those numbers don't just represent a better Tuesday for a school administrator.
No.
They represent altered life trajectories. A 92% reduction in anxiety means that child is no longer on the path toward adult panic disorder or agoraphobia.
They got off the bad timeline.
Exactly. By delivering the care where the child is, without the wait lists, it acts as preventative medicine on a systemic scale.
By the way, if any educators or parents are listening and want to look into that framework, the source provided their info. It's mentalspaceschool.com. Or you can email them at mentalspaceschool@cheatshowtherapy.com.
Highly recommend looking into it.
So what does this all mean? We have covered immense ground today.
We really have.
We started by completely debunking the myth that separation anxiety is just a cute, albeit stressful, toddler phase at a daycare door.
Right.
We explored the very real, severe physical and emotional mechanisms that older children and teens experience, understanding why the stomach aches happen, the nightmares, the absolute terror of being separated.
We redefined what it looks like.
Yeah. And we challenged our own fundamental instincts by recognizing the drop-off paradox, learning that sometimes walking away calmly is the most loving thing a parent can do to stop hitting that neurological save button.
Such an important takeaway.
And finally, we saw how systemic, accessible, school-based care models can step in to bypass the broken therapy bottlenecks, preventing a misunderstood childhood struggle from evolving into a lifelong adult crisis.
And for you listening, whether you are dealing with this in your own home or you just observe it out in the world, this knowledge is a tool of empowerment.
How so?
It empowers you to look past the superficial, lazy labels of a child being clingy or manipulative. When you see a 9-year-old having a meltdown over a sleepover or a teenager panicking when a parent is unreachable, you now have the context to recognize a neurological threat response.
Right.
You can recognize a cry for clinical help rather than a behavioral flaw that demands punishment.
It is entirely about changing our lens. It's about seeing the physiological pain behind the behavior and knowing that there is an actual evidence-based path forward that works if we can just get it to the families who need it.
This raises an important question, though, one to keep turning over in your mind long after we finish today.
Let's hear it.
We established that untreated childhood separation anxiety is a direct predictor of adult panic disorder and agoraphobia. Consider for a moment how many adults walking around today struggling with severe debilitating anxiety are simply the misunderstood 9-year-olds of decades past.
Oh, wow.
Kids who are told by the adults in their lives to just stop being clingy, to stop being manipulative, and to grow up. How might society's entire perspective on adult mental health change if we viewed it through the lens of unhealed, systematically ignored childhood separation anxiety?